Many of us are returning to activities after the pandemic, but the impact of quarantine on mental health can still be felt, especially in our youth. Luckily, the Idaho Youth Ranch wants to help. Scott, it's always great to see you, and I really want to talk to you about the mental state of our youth right now, because the pandemic, we all went through a lot.
Yeah, we did.
But especially our young people. So where are they at right now when it comes to mental wellness and coming out of the pandemic?
Well, thank you for taking the time to do this because it's so important. We know anecdotally that a lot of young people struggled in the pandemic. We don't have exact data for Idaho. We know some data from the health department in Washington, but they said they saw almost a third increase in the number of youth showing up at the emergency room for mental health crises. So we know this has been a challenging time for youth and families.
And on the flip side, though, too, I've also heard there are some youth, though, who actually benefited from being at home during the pandemic. And why would that be?
There are some kids that benefited. We even have some research on that. So some young people who may have been struggling externally or just have really good relationships at home, they got to foster those relationships more, and that's what they needed, and they have thrived in that. I know that our therapists have seen with our telemental health services that some of their clients have actually done better in the safety and comfort of their home.
Wow. Okay, but we can't ignore the fact, though, that there is definitely still a need out there,
right,
for the youth and for families in general as we're trying to get back into a whole other transition,
yeah,
right?
A new normal.
A new normal,
yeah,
right. So for parents that are really trying to find the proper guidance and help their kids down that path of mental wellness out of the pandemic, what can they do? Give some resources, give some tips.
Well, I think one of the things that they really should do is focus on how their patterns have shifted during the pandemic, and it's time to get these kids active, get them out, get them participating in activities. They should be very careful about noticing the amount of screen time kids are spending, the amount of on-phone time. Virtual school created that need for a lot, and it's time to shift that back. And the other thing I would just say is decades of research all says the same thing. When kids face challenges, the most protective factor is relationships with caring adults. So whatever parents can do to get their kids engaged in activities that expose them to caring adults, whether that's clubs or sports teams or camps or a library program, get them active and get them active with adults that they should be involved with.
Great, it's that positive outlet and connection outside of the household. And for parents that just have that gut feeling, though, that they may need a little more assistance to help their, to help their child with the current situation, and maybe they need professional services, where should they go? What should they do?
One thing I would say is we have a guide on our website called Relationships in a Time of Recovery. So parents should look at that and say, okay, how am I helping my child with their relationships? But if they sense that their child needs more help, like they really think something is wrong, they shouldn't ignore that. They can go to youthranch.org and use some of our resources, reach out to their medical provider or whatever their regular mental health provider is, but don't ignore the needs of these kids.
And where can people go so they can learn more about the Idaho Youth Ranch and all the services that you provide?
Our information is all at youthranch.org.